Welcome to the Awakening Women podcast. I'm your host, Leanne Oaten. And in this episode, I wanted to cover 5 paradigm shifts that you can make if you are in a place where you are starting to see that your relationship may not have a future, or you're at least moving along those lines as you are building other areas of your life, career, success, health, mothering, all the areas. You're starting to question whether this relationship is going to be part of your future with where you're going. And one of the ways that we can get trapped up is with the stigma around being quote unquote the single mother. And especially for us high achievers, when we want to achieve and succeed at things and we want to be perceived in a certain way, this can really bump up against the ego sense of, if I let go of this relationship, then who am I? Then what am I? Then what does that mean? Then what is my identity? Because right now my identity is married or in a relationship with my children's father. We're a family. That's my identity that I've built. So to be sure, when you move away from a relationship, when you've built a family like this, it is absolutely an identity shift. And this is exactly what I coach women on, is when they're at this stage of moving from what was to what's coming, but they're in that messy middle. And so what I wanted to offer here is just some gentle shifts that you can make, whether gentle or like actual paradigm shifts where you no longer operate from the model of single mom equals what? Single mom equals what? Failure? I want you to fill in those blanks. So the first is we want to move from abandoned to choosing ourselves. Because the old story that we are letting go of is that single moms are left or unwanted or abandoned or not chosen. But we shift instead to I choose peace, I choose self-respect, I choose feeling safe in my home, in my body, in my surroundings, over staying in dysfunction. And that is not failure. That's actually true leadership. And you are a true leader. Us high functioning, high achieving, success driven women, we don't like to fail. And so we need to shift this from failure to leadership of your own life. And the second is from broken family to redefined family. So the old story says that only two parents equals a whole family, whereas the single parent equals a broken home, which nobody likes that, or a failed relationship. And I talk about this actually when we're moving into the self-sourced identity around women will carry the story of I'm a divorced this or that. And we have to learn to redefine things as we shift into the new identity, because we don't want to be, oh, I'm divorced. That's like our sticker on our forehead, right? We're moving past that. To me, that is very similar to an alcoholic quitting drinking and still calling themselves an alcoholic. I think we need to move into a more empowered story. Okay, so if you're moving from 2 parents equals a whole household to single parent equals broken, we need to shift that into that idea that wholeness comes from love. It comes from stability and presence, not from what it looks like from the outside. So if you're carrying this meme and this idea around the stigma of single motherhood, I want you to think about, is the fear around what people will think, because generally that's the case, is that more important to you than how you feel day to day? And remember that your family, which is your children, they will be as whole as you are. They can only do as well as their highest functioning parent. And so your responsibility is to be that whole version of you. And that is pretty hard to do when you're operating within dynamics that are limiting how abundant and how easeful your life and how peaceful your life can be if you were to be doing that on your own versus in a relationship that is really holding you back from reaching those next levels of success and your vision and all of that. This is why visioning is so crucial. And the next is to shift from burden to boundary. Oh, pardon me, I skipped one. Let me go back. Number 3 is that the meme of I failed to I actually modeled strength. I modeled power to other people around me. And because there's a lot of people that stay in dead relationships and call that success because it's been however many years. But what you're actually modeling is the strength to walk away, where a lot of women never do. And so you can shift it to that. And you're also modeling that for your children, especially daughters, that you don't have to stay in something that is no longer for you, even if you've had kids and you're married and you have a house and all those things. So the old story is that if I end up a single mom, that I failed in relationships. Maybe you carry that one. But remember that walking away from misalignment is success, and that you're actually teaching your kids what self-respect looks like in real time, in action. Number 4 is you're moving from burden to boundary. So the old story that you might be carrying is that single motherhood is a heavy burden that you must carry alone. But here's the really powerful shift. I mean, I could go really deep on this one alone just by itself, but it's shifting from I'm no longer carrying a grown man. I'm no longer raising a grown man. And it's a heavy burden, and it's one that we have signed up for and we've chosen and we've agreed to. And so we need to shift out of that. And the burden really gets lifted the moment that you put it down and realize it was never yours to carry in the first place. But it's very difficult to do that when you are still taking the full responsibility for the relationship and family future. And then the 5th is moving from undesirable to high standard. So the old story that you might be operating from is that single moms are less desirable partners. But actually being a single mom means that you know exactly what you need and you're not going to tolerate any more bullshit. And anyone who steps into your life gets a woman who's been forged by fire from the ashes, literally. And so your standards are going to be really high, if I have anything to say about it, if you're working with me anyways. And this conversation came up this week inside the Self-Sourced Woman Healing membership, where we were talking about my take on dating. When you have kids, what do you do? Do you have to be single for the rest of your life? Because I said something I have said around that I don't believe in blending. And so I put more context into the membership about what I think it really needs to look like, from my opinion, from having done blended to choosing not to do that. Now, I have some pretty strong opinions around that. And that's what we were talking about, is that no, you don't have to be single for the rest of your life. And then you're no longer a single mother if you have a true partner that is actually adding to your life and that can be a positive influence on your kids. But I just really, with an 86% failure rate, what else in life would you get into with that kind of a failure rate? And so we need to do things from a very high level of discernment, from getting really clear on what it is that we want. Because I will tell you, I have seen horrific things that can happen when you blend and then think that you're getting into this lovely family situation, thinking it's all just going to be easy peasy. And it's not. It's not anything like that. And what are we really doing by jumping into something like that? And so the reason why I'm just touching on that here, this is a whole rabbit hole conversation, but it's more around, like, if you hold this fear of being a single mother and how that looks, you might be actually more susceptible to jumping back into something right away and trying to fill that void with someone else. And I really caution you against doing that, and to really get clear on what you want, the type of partner you want, doing the healing work to shift yourself from within, doing that inner self mastery work, and not jumping into something prematurely that you can't easily eject from, something that's going to put your young kids in harm's way. This is particularly the case with young minor children that I'm speaking of here. If you have older adult children and they don't live at home, then what you do is really you, but I'm talking more about how that's going to influence kids, right? Because they don't choose this. They don't want any part of a blended family typically. Sure, those things can work out, I guess, but it's not typically something that they would want. And so that was what I was talking about in the membership. So if you are not in there, you need to get in there. That is where you get weekly Q&A with me. I do daily broadcasts in there. You get access to the self-sourced method that I am creating. And it's just a really supportive space. It's intimate, and the women are having amazing shifts in there and conversations. And that is one place that you can start. The second is that I'm doing a class on YouTube. I'm going to check out YouTube Lives as something new to try. I'm doing a live stream class called Should I Stay or Should I Go? How ambitious women leaders can improve their relationship without waiting for him to do the work. This is for women who are still kind of hanging out, waiting to see if he will show up and step up and do the work, but you're still in that questioning phase. You're tolerating too much. You're over functioning to cover for a partner who isn't leading, providing, or meeting you at your depth. And so you are forced to be in that leadership role in your career and also in your home life and in your relationship. And that burns us out. It is not fun. And I'm here to help women step into a higher standard of expectation, of wanting a partner that is going to meet them at their level, and that there is not going to be this really dramatic imbalance of who's doing all the giving. And ladies, that requires boundaries on your part. And this is the work that I am so passionate about as women, really just raising your standards for what you're going to allow in your life. Like we're here for such a short time, right? And so I'm teaching this class on YouTube Live September 24th, but you need to save your spot to get the link and all the details. I will put the link in the show notes of this episode here, so you can just click on that, or you can come over to my Instagram and there's a link in my bio for that right now. And so I invite you to join and be part of that and be part of the chat. And that's what I wanted to share with you on this extra little episode I put out on a Saturday, because it was front of mind, because it came up in the membership this last week. And I wanted to go a little bit deeper, because my imagining is that there are many of you out there that this is a sticking point for you. I mean, there's a long list of reasons why it can feel very difficult to break out of a relationship. But I think this is one big one. And hopefully this is giving you some food for thought. And if you love this episode and it has served you, or you love this podcast, you've been here a while, I just want to ask you to do me a quick favor that'll take you literally 1 second to pop into Spotify or iTunes, wherever you're listening, and leave me a 5-star review. I put a lot of time into this podcast. I've been doing this for over 6 years now or more. And so reviews really are helpful, because it's currency for people who come on and are looking at the show and they want to see, is this show worth listening to? So the reviews and the ratings are super helpful, and this is how we practice reciprocity in life, and it's what I teach women, is making sure that you have reciprocity in your relationships, that there is give and take, and that you're operating from that. So this is just one small way, right? But if you are operating in the world from giving because someone, you feel given to, not because it's obligatory. And in this case, don't leave a review if you don't like the show. But I mean, if you've been here and you've genuinely gotten value, then I would love that. But deeper, the law of reciprocity is a very important principle to operate from in life. And also look at your relationships and ask yourself, is there reciprocal energy? Is there reciprocal give and take? Because typically the women that are in this community, they are over giving, over functioning, overdoing everything. And they have a real problem with receiving. And so I really want women to learn how to give from the right place, but also to receive from the right place. All right, I'll talk to you in the next episode. Bye for now.